What if the most extreme, most unpredictable state in America wasn't defined by mountains or deserts, but by water, heat, and creatures that never quite left the age of dinosaurs? Florida isn't just sunshine and beaches. It's a place where the land floats. The weather rewrites itself daily, and ancient reptiles outnumber people in some regions. This is a state shaped by coastlines that refuse to stay still, swamps that breathe, and heat that fuels some of the most unusual natural phenomena in North America. In this episode, we're counting down 50 of the craziest, most bizarre, and least known verified facts about Florida. Every fact is real, no folklore, no exaggeration, just documented reality that proves Florida plays by a different rulebook. If you enjoy deep dives into the strange truths hiding in plain sight, like this video and subscribe to Wonderlust Labs, where we explore the most mind-bending facts across America, one state at a time. Let's begin at number 50. Number 50. Florida has more coastline than any other continental state. Florida's shoreline stretches farther than any other state in the continental United States, totaling over 1,350 miles of general coastline, and more than 8,400 miles when tidal inlets, bays, and islands are included. This is longer than California, Texas, and even Alaska when measuring only the lower 48. What makes this fact especially strange is that Florida is not large by land area. The sheer length of its shoreline comes from its peninsula shape, barrier islands, mangrove coasts, and shallow continental shelf. In some places, land dissolves into water so gradually that the boundary is hard to define. This immense shoreline influences everything in Florida, from weather patterns and hurricanes to wildlife diversity and erosion. Entire communities exist on land that is slowly shifting, migrating, or vanishing altogether. Florida isn't just surrounded by water, it is constantly negotiating with it. Number 49. Florida is the flattest state in the United States. Florida holds the record for the lowest average elevation of any U.S. state. Its highest natural point, Britton Hill, rises only 345 feet above sea level, lower than the lowest points in many other states. This extreme flatness has profound consequences. Water does not drain quickly. Rain spreads sideways instead of downhill. Flooding can occur miles from where storms actually hit. Entire ecosystems depend on water flowing so slowly that it moves inches per day. Because of this, Florida behaves more like a sponge than solid ground. Roads, buildings, and cities must be engineered to survive standing water. Even minor changes in sea level or rainfall can reshape large areas of land. Florida's flatness is not just a geographic curiosity, it is the foundation of nearly every environmental challenge the state faces. Number 48. Florida gets more lightning strikes than any other state. Florida is often called the lightning capital of the United States, experiencing more lightning strikes per square mile than any other state. Central Florida, particularly the area between Tampa and Orlando, sees some of the highest lightning densities in North America. This happens because Florida sits between the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. Daily sea breezes collide over land, forcing warm, moist air upward and creating towering thunderstorms almost year-round. Lightning in Florida isn't rare or seasonal, it's routine. The state averages over 1 million lightning strikes per year, and Florida consistently leads the nation in lightning-related injuries and fatalities. This constant electrical activity shapes building codes, outdoor behavior, and even sports schedules. In Florida, lightning is not an event, it's a climate feature. Number 47. Alligators live in all 67 Florida counties. American alligators inhabit every single county in Florida, from remote swamps to suburban retention ponds. Estimates suggest the state is home to over 1.3 million alligators, making human and alligator overlap unavoidable. What makes this remarkable is how adaptable alligators are. They thrive in freshwater marshes, rivers, lakes, canals, and even brackish coastal waters. During droughts, they dig gator holes that hold water and provide refuge for fish and birds, reshaping entire ecosystems. Alligators also tolerate urbanization. Golf courses, drainage ditches, and backyard ponds can become habitat. This is not because Florida is wild everywhere, but because alligators are exceptionally good at surviving alongside humans. In Florida, alligator encounters aren't anomalies. They are an ecological reality. Number 46, Florida's swamps act like natural water filtering machines. Florida's swamps and wetlands perform one of the most important environmental jobs in the state: water filtration. As water slowly moves through marshes, sawgrass plains, and mangrove forests, pollutants are trapped, broken down, or absorbed before reaching rivers and oceans. The Everglades, in particular, functions as a massive, slow-moving filtration system. Water flows south at such a gradual pace that nutrients and contaminants settle out naturally. This protects coral reefs, seagrass beds, and fisheries far beyond the wetlands themselves. When wetlands are drained or altered, this filtration system collapses. Polluted runoff moves faster and farther, fueling algae blooms and dead zones. Florida's swamps are not wasted land. They are living infrastructure, quietly keeping entire coastlines alive. Number 45. Florida receives more rainfall than most people realize. Despite its sunny reputation, Florida receives more annual rainfall than Seattle, averaging between 50 and 60 inches per year, depending on region. Some parts of South Florida can exceed 65 inches annually. The difference lies in how the rain arrives. Florida rain tends to fall in intense, short-lived downpours, especially during summer afternoons. Streets can flood within minutes, then dry completely an hour later. This pattern shapes everything from architecture to daily life. Storm drains, canals, and retention ponds are built into nearly every neighborhood. Florida's sunshine and rainfall are not opposites. They are partners, working together to fuel lush growth, powerful storms, and a landscape that never fully dries out. Number 44, Florida has more springs than any other place on Earth. Florida contains over 700 freshwater springs, more than any other region on the planet. Many of these springs discharge millions of gallons of crystal clear water every day, fed by the Floridan aquifer beneath the state. Some springs maintain a constant temperature of about 72 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, creating stable habitats for fish, turtles, and manatees. These springs also reveal how porous Florida's limestone foundation really is. Rainwater can travel miles underground before emerging suddenly as a river. Because springs connect directly to groundwater, they are highly sensitive to pollution and overuse. When aquifer levels drop, springs weaken or stop flowing entirely. Florida's springs are windows into the state's hidden plumbing system, and they reveal just how fragile it is. Number 43. Florida's barrier islands are constantly moving. Florida's barrier islands, which protect the mainland from storms, are not fixed landforms. They migrate naturally over time, shifting landward as waves and storms rearrange sand. In many places, houses and roads sit on islands that are slowly rolling inland. Hurricanes accelerate this process, carving new inlets and erasing sections of beach overnight. What looks permanent on a map may exist only temporarily in reality. This movement is essential to coastal survival. Barrier islands absorb storm energy and protect estuaries behind them. Attempts to freeze them in place with seawalls and development often backfire, increasing erosion elsewhere. Florida's shoreline is not meant to stay still, no matter how much humans want it to. Number 42, Florida is the only place where crocodiles and alligators coexist. Southern Florida is the only place on Earth where American alligators and American crocodiles live side by side in the wild. Crocodiles prefer saltwater and brackish environments, while alligators favor fresh water, but their ranges overlap in South Florida. The two species differ significantly in behavior, snout shape, and tolerance for saltwater. Crocodiles are generally more aggressive and far rarer, with only a few thousand individuals remaining in the US. This overlap exists because Florida's coastline blends freshwater wetlands with mangrove-lined estuaries. Few places offer the conditions both species require. Florida's ecosystems are so unique that they allow evolutionary cousins to share space without competing directly. Number 41. Florida's mangroves can expand coastlines naturally. Mangrove forests don't just survive along Florida's coast, they actively build new land. Their tangled root systems trap sediment, slow waves, and stabilize shorelines, allowing coastlines to grow outward over time. In some areas, mangroves have created entirely new islands and expanded the mainland by hundreds of feet. They also act as powerful storm buffers, reducing wave height and protecting inland communities during hurricanes. Unlike artificial seawalls, mangroves grow stronger with time. They adapt to rising sea levels by trapping more sediment. Florida's mangroves are not passive plants. They are engineers, quietly reshaping the coastline one root at a time. Number 40. Florida's sunshine is stronger than most of the US realizes. Florida earns its nickname the Sunshine State, not just for clear skies, but for solar intensity. Because of its latitude, Florida receives sunlight at a steeper angle than most of the continental United States, delivering stronger ultraviolet radiation year-round. This means winter sun in Florida can be as intense as summer sun in northern states. UV exposure remains high even on hazy or partly cloudy days, contributing to faster material degradation, increased skin cancer rates, and accelerated fading of paint and plastics. The constant solar energy fuels Florida's ecosystems, allowing plants to grow year-round and keeping water temperatures warm enough to sustain tropical species far north of their typical range. Florida's sunshine is not gentle. It is a persistent environmental force shaping biology, weather, and daily life. Number 39. Florida's rain often falls sideways. Florida's thunderstorms are notorious for horizontal rain, driven by powerful downdrafts and outflow boundaries. During intense summer storms, rain can be pushed nearly parallel to the ground, reducing visibility to near zero within seconds. This phenomenon occurs because warm rising air collapses rapidly as rain cools it, sending air rushing outward at ground level. These gust fronts can arrive miles ahead of the actual storm, creating sudden wind shifts and walls of rain. Sideways rain affects aviation, road safety, and even building design. Covered walkways, deep roof overhangs, and storm shutters are practical necessities, not architectural flourishes. In Florida, rain does not politely fall straight down. It arrives at angles that demand respect. Number 38. Florida's soil is too sandy to hold water for long. Much of Florida's soil is composed of sand over porous limestone, which allows water to drain quickly underground. This creates a paradox: heavy rainfall combined with rapid infiltration. While surface flooding can occur after storms, water often disappears quickly into the ground, replenishing aquifers instead of forming rivers. This also explains why Florida has few natural lakes compared to its size, and why sinkholes can form suddenly when underground cavities collapse. Because nutrients wash through sandy soil easily, Florida ecosystems rely on constant replenishment from rainfall. Agriculture requires frequent irrigation and fertilization. Florida's ground doesn't store water well. It passes it along, quietly feeding the massive aquifer below. Number 37. Florida has more tornadoes than most states east of the Mississippi. Florida experiences more tornadoes per square mile than any other state east of the Mississippi River. While these tornadoes are usually weaker than those in the Great Plains, they occur more frequently and often with little warning. Many Florida tornadoes form within hurricanes or fast-moving thunderstorms, making them difficult to detect visually. Rain-wrapped tornadoes can touch down and lift within minutes, striking residential areas without the dramatic funnel clouds seen elsewhere. This frequent, low-level tornado activity influences building codes and emergency planning. Florida's extreme weather reputation isn't limited to hurricanes. The state spins smaller but numerous atmospheric threats that often arrive quietly and leave damage behind. Number 36. Florida's heat can create its own weather systems. On hot summer days, Florida's land heats faster than the surrounding oceans. This temperature difference drives sea breeze collisions, where moist air from both coasts converges over the interior. When these air masses collide, they are forced upward, producing towering thunderstorms that can reach over 40,000 feet high. These storms can form even when larger weather systems are absent. This daily weather engine means Florida can generate storms almost independently. Clear mornings often give way to explosive afternoon rainfall, lightning, and gusty winds. Florida doesn't always wait for weather to arrive. It manufactures its own. Number 35. Florida's swamps release methane naturally. Florida's wetlands and swamps are significant natural sources of methane, a greenhouse gas produced by microorganisms breaking down organic matter in oxygen-poor conditions. As plants decay underwater, gases build up and escape in bubbles, sometimes visible on the surface. These emissions are part of a long-standing natural cycle and have existed for thousands of years. While wetlands contribute methane, they also store massive amounts of carbon in soils and vegetation. Destroying swamps releases far more greenhouse gases than leaving them intact. Florida's wetlands are not environmental liabilities. They are complex systems balancing gas release with long-term carbon storage. Number 34. Florida's rivers can flow underground. Because Florida sits atop porous limestone, some rivers vanish underground for miles before reappearing elsewhere. Water enters sinkholes, caves, and subterranean channels connected to the aquifer. This underground flow blurs the boundary between rivers and groundwater. Pollutants introduced far inland can emerge unexpectedly in springs or coastal waters. These hidden waterways complicate water management and contamination tracking. Florida's hydrology doesn't always follow visible paths. Much of the state's water travels unseen, moving through a limestone labyrinth beneath people's feet. Number 33. Florida is slowly sinking in some areas. Parts of Florida are experiencing land subsidence, where the ground sinks gradually over time. This is caused by groundwater withdrawal, soil compaction, and the collapse of underground cavities. In low-lying coastal regions, even small amounts of sinking worsen flooding and saltwater intrusion. Combined with rising sea levels, subsidence accelerates the loss of usable land. This sinking is often invisible until roads crack, foundations shift, or sinkholes appear. Florida's challenges are not only about water rising. In some places, the land itself is quietly dropping. Number 32. Florida has the longest continuous sandy beach in the US. Florida is home to the longest uninterrupted stretch of sandy beach in the continental United States, running along the Atlantic coast for over 200 miles. This continuous beach exists because Florida's continental shelf is wide and shallow, allowing waves to deposit sand instead of eroding rock. The result is a coastline dominated by dunes rather than cliffs. These beaches are dynamic systems. Sand moves constantly along shore, reshaped by storms and currents. What appears stable one season can shift dramatically the next. Florida's beaches are not static attractions. They are moving landscapes sculpted by the ocean every day. Number 31. Florida's coastal waters change color naturally. Florida's coastal waters can shift from deep blue to green or brown due to phytoplankton blooms, sediment movement, and freshwater runoff. These color changes are natural and often seasonal. After heavy rains, tannins from wetlands stain rivers tea-colored before they reach the ocean. Wind-driven currents can stir up sand, temporarily clouding nearshore waters. While some blooms are harmful, many are harmless and part of normal ocean productivity. Florida's waters are visually dynamic because they are biologically active. The color of the sea reflects what is happening within it. Number 30. Florida is the only state with a subtropical and tropical climate. Florida is the only U.S. state that officially contains both subtropical and tropical climate zones. Central and northern Florida fall into the humid subtropical category, while South Florida, including the Florida Keys, is fully tropical. This distinction matters biologically. Tropical species such as coral, mangroves, and certain fish cannot survive freezing temperatures. South Florida's rare frost-free winters allow ecosystems normally found in the Caribbean to exist on the U.S. mainland. The transition zone also makes Florida ecologically unstable. A single cold snap can kill tropical species, while a warm winter allows them to expand northward. Florida's climate is not fixed. It oscillates, reshaping ecosystems year by year. Number 29. Florida has more invasive species than any other state. Florida hosts more invasive plant and animal species than any other U.S. state, with over 500 non-native species established across its ecosystems. The reasons are structural. Florida's warm climate, massive shipping ports, aquarium trade, pet releases, and plant imports create constant opportunities for non-native species to escape and thrive. Burmese pythons, lionfish, invasive snails, and exotic plants have permanently altered food webs. Some invasive species spread so rapidly that eradication is impossible. Florida's ecosystems are not just diverse, they are under continuous biological invasion pressure, making the state one of the most complex ecological battlegrounds in North America. Number 28. Florida's alligators can survive freezing temperatures. Despite their prehistoric appearance, American alligators have evolved a remarkable survival technique called icing behavior. During cold snaps, alligators stick their snouts above frozen water, keeping their snouts exposed while their bodies remain submerged. This allows them to breathe while entering a semi-dormant state, drastically slowing their metabolism. They can remain motionless for days until temperatures rise. This adaptation enables alligators to survive brief freezes that would kill many reptiles. It also allows them to occupy regions far north of what their appearance suggests. Florida's alligators are not relics barely hanging on. They are resilient specialists. Number 27. Florida's swamps can sound alive at night. Florida's wetlands undergo dramatic acoustic transformations after sunset. Frogs, insects, birds, and mammals create layered soundscapes that can reach deafening levels. Some frog choruses exceed 90 decibels at close range, rivaling heavy traffic. These sounds serve biological purposes such as mating calls, territory defense, and predator warnings. The density of wetland life means sounds overlap constantly. What seems chaotic is actually highly structured communication. Florida's swamps don't go quiet after dark. They broadcast biological activity on a scale few places on Earth can match. Number 26. Florida's freshwater and saltwater mix more than people think. Florida's porous geology allows saltwater intrusion far inland through underground channels. In some coastal areas, saltwater can move miles beneath the surface, contaminating freshwater supplies. Rivers, estuaries, and aquifers interact continuously, blurring the boundary between fresh and saltwater systems. During droughts, reduced freshwater flow allows saltwater to push even farther inland. This hidden mixing complicates water management and agriculture. Florida's water is not neatly divided into categories. It exists on a sliding scale shaped by tides, rainfall, and human use. Number 25. Florida has more man-made canals than any other state. Florida contains thousands of miles of canals, built primarily for drainage, flood control, and water management. In South Florida alone, canals stretch over 2,000 miles. These canals transformed wetlands into farmland and cities, but also altered natural water flow. Species use canals as travel corridors, spreading wildlife into urban areas. Canals are one reason alligators, fish, and invasive species appear in unexpected places. Florida's waterways are no longer purely natural or artificial. They form a hybrid system that reshapes the state's ecology daily. Number 24. Florida's hurricanes can create new landforms. Major hurricanes don't just damage Florida, they rebuild it. Storm surge and wave action can deposit massive amounts of sand inland, creating new dunes, overwash fans, and even temporary islands. Some barrier islands were reshaped entirely by single storms. New inlets have formed overnight, altering tidal flow and navigation routes. While destructive, hurricanes are also geological forces. Florida's coastline exists in its current form largely because of repeated storm reshaping. Without hurricanes, much of Florida's shoreline would look completely different. Number 23. Florida's heat alters human sleep patterns. Studies show that Florida's high nighttime temperatures can disrupt human sleep cycles, especially during summer months when humidity prevents efficient cooling. Warm nights reduce deep sleep duration, increasing fatigue and stress. This effect is amplified during heat waves when overnight temperatures remain elevated. Air conditioning mitigates the problem but increases energy demand and strain on power grids. Florida's climate doesn't just affect outdoor life, it influences human biology down to the neurological level. Number 22. Florida has naturally occurring radioactive beaches. Some Florida beaches contain naturally radioactive minerals, such as monazite, that emit low levels of radiation. These minerals originate from eroded inland rock deposits carried by rivers. The radiation levels are generally low and not considered dangerous for casual beachgoers. However, sensitive instruments can detect measurable radiation along certain stretches of sand. This phenomenon occurs because Florida's sand is constantly reworked and sorted by waves and currents. Even its beaches carry geological fingerprints from far inland. Number 21. Florida's wildlife often becomes active during storms. Many Florida animals show increased activity just before storms, responding to changes in air pressure, humidity, and electromagnetic conditions. Fish may feed aggressively, birds seek shelter early, and amphibians emerge en masse. These behaviors evolved as survival responses to rapidly changing weather. In a state where storms are frequent and intense, wildlife that anticipates weather gains an advantage. Florida's animals don't just endure storms, they sense them coming and adjust accordingly. Number 20. Florida has more freshwater fish species than any other state. Florida contains over 300 species of freshwater fish, more than any other U.S. state. This is remarkable given its relatively small size. The diversity exists because Florida's warm climate allows year-round breeding, and its interconnected lakes, rivers, springs, canals, and wetlands create countless niches. Fish can move between systems during floods, spreading populations widely. This abundance also attracts non-native species that establish quickly. Florida's freshwater ecosystems are biologically dense and constantly changing. Anglers aren't just fishing in water, they're tapping into one of the most diverse freshwater environments in the country. Number 19. Florida's alligators influence where people build homes. In many parts of Florida, development plans must account for alligator habitats. Wetland buffers, waterway setbacks, and wildlife corridors are often required by local regulations. Because alligators occupy nearly any freshwater body, residential design includes fencing, signage, and modified shorelines to reduce human interaction. This affects property values, landscaping, and insurance. Florida is one of the few places where a large predator directly shapes suburban planning. Alligators are not occasional intruders. They are a permanent design consideration woven into the built environment. Number 18. Florida's swamps can create their own microclimates. Large wetlands like the Everglades generate localized climate effects. Evaporation cools surrounding air, while moisture increases humidity and cloud formation. This can lead to afternoon storms forming preferentially over swampy areas, while nearby regions remain dry. Temperatures near wetlands often fluctuate less between day and night compared to urban zones. These microclimates influence plant growth, animal behavior, and even mosquito populations. Florida's swamps don't just respond to weather, they help create it. Number 17. Florida's groundwater supplies nearly the entire state. About 90% of Floridians rely on groundwater for drinking water, drawn primarily from the Floridan aquifer. This aquifer stretches beneath multiple states, but is most heavily tapped in Florida. It supplies homes, agriculture, and industry, often with minimal treatment due to its natural filtration through limestone. However, overuse lowers water pressure, allowing saltwater intrusion and sinkhole formation. Florida's water supply is abundant yet fragile. Nearly everything depends on what happens below ground, not what falls from the sky. Number 16. Florida's shoreline is shrinking faster than most states. Coastal erosion affects much of Florida, with some areas losing several feet of beach per year. Rising seas, stronger storms, and disrupted sediment flow accelerate the loss. Beaches that appear stable today may vanish within decades without constant replenishment. Florida spends millions annually on beach renourishment projects to maintain tourism and protect infrastructure. The paradox is that Florida's beaches are naturally dynamic. Human efforts to freeze them in place often require perpetual maintenance. The shoreline is not retreating quietly. It is actively resisting control. Number 15. Florida has more sinkholes than any other state. Florida leads the nation in sinkhole occurrences, a result of its limestone foundation dissolving over time. Rainwater becomes acidic as it passes through soil, slowly eroding limestone and forming underground cavities. When these cavities collapse, the ground above gives way. Sinkholes can appear suddenly beneath homes, roads, and even lakes. While many are small, some swallow entire structures. Florida's landscape is not uniformly solid. In places, it's more like a thin crust over empty space. Number 14. Florida's heat can kill trees without fire. Extended heat and drought stress can cause tree mortality even without wildfires. When soil moisture drops, trees cannot transport water effectively, leading to internal failure. This phenomenon has affected pine forests and hardwood stands across Florida during prolonged dry periods. Trees weakened by heat also become more vulnerable to pests and disease. Florida's forests don't always burn or flood to change. Sometimes they simply overheat, silently collapsing from within. Number 13. Florida is one of the most biologically diverse states. Florida ranks among the top states for plant and animal biodiversity. Despite its modest size, the state hosts tropical, temperate, marine, freshwater, and terrestrial ecosystems within close proximity. Coral reefs exist just offshore, while pine flatwoods and hardwood hammocks sit inland. This diversity comes at a cost. Many species live at the edge of their tolerance ranges, making ecosystems sensitive to climate shifts. Florida's richness is both its strength and its vulnerability. Number 12. Florida's mosquito population is among the largest in the US. Florida is home to over 80 mosquito species, more than most states. Warm temperatures, standing water, and year-round breeding create ideal conditions. Mosquito control districts operate continuously, using surveillance, larvicides, and biological controls. Despite this, mosquitoes remain a persistent presence. They influence outdoor activity, public health, and even construction schedules. Florida's mosquitoes are not seasonal nuisances. They are permanent residents shaped by the state's climate. Number 11. Florida's estuaries are among the most productive on Earth. Florida's estuaries, where freshwater meets saltwater, are some of the most biologically productive ecosystems globally. Nutrients carried by rivers combine with tidal mixing to support massive food webs. Many commercial fish and shellfish species depend on estuaries during early life stages. Damage to estuaries ripples through entire coastal economies. Florida's seafood industry, tourism, and wildlife all rely on these transitional waters. The state's wealth is tied directly to places where water types collide. Number 10. Florida's coral reef is the only living reef in the continental US. Florida is home to the only living coral barrier reef in the continental United States, stretching roughly 350 miles from the Florida Keys northward along the southeast coast. This reef supports thousands of marine species and acts as a natural breakwater, reducing wave energy before it reaches shore. It also generates billions of dollars annually through tourism and fisheries. Unlike tropical reefs elsewhere, Florida's reef exists near the edge of its temperature tolerance. Even small changes in water temperature or quality can cause widespread coral stress and bleaching. Florida's reef is not just rare, it is precariously positioned between survival and collapse. Number 9. Florida's shoreline is constantly being rebuilt by humans. Florida conducts more beach renourishment projects than any other state. Sand is dredged from offshore or inland sources and pumped onto eroding beaches to replace what waves remove. Some beaches have been rebuilt multiple times within a single decade. Without this intervention, entire communities would lose protective buffers against storms. This constant rebuilding creates an illusion of permanence. Florida's beaches often look stable because they are actively maintained. The shoreline many visitors see is not purely natural. It is a carefully managed frontier between land and sea. Number 8. Florida's alligators shape entire ecosystems. Alligators are considered keystone species in Florida. Their behavior directly influences water availability, species distribution, and habitat survival. During dry seasons, alligators dig depressions known as gator holes that retain water. These become refuges for fish, insects, birds, and mammals when surrounding wetlands dry out. When water returns, these concentrated food sources boost survival rates across the ecosystem. Remove alligators, and entire wetland systems degrade. In Florida, alligators are not just predators, they are ecosystem engineers. Number 7. Florida's swamps can store more carbon than forests. Wetlands in Florida store enormous amounts of carbon in waterlogged soils where decomposition slows dramatically. Over thousands of years, organic matter accumulates faster than it breaks down, locking carbon underground. When wetlands are drained, this stored carbon is released into the atmosphere. Protecting swamps isn't just about wildlife, it's about climate stability. Florida's wetlands quietly perform one of the most important environmental services on Earth, without ever drawing attention to themselves. Number 6. Florida's heat changes how animals hunt. High temperatures force many Florida animals to shift hunting and feeding to nighttime. Predators like panthers, bobcats, and alligators often avoid daytime heat to conserve energy. This nocturnal shift reduces heat stress but increases competition and overlap between species. Human activity also intersects more frequently with wildlife after dark. Florida's heat doesn't just slow animals down, it rewrites daily survival strategies, reshaping predator-prey relationships across entire ecosystems. Number 5. Florida's rain can trigger mass animal movements. Heavy seasonal rains flood low-lying areas, triggering sudden migrations of fish, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. Roadways become temporary waterways. Fish appear in ditches. Frogs emerge by the thousands. Alligators move between water bodies. These movements are not random. They are ancient responses to water availability. Florida's animals are programmed to move with the rain, even when modern infrastructure gets in the way. Number 4. Florida is losing land even without storms. In some regions, Florida loses land on calm days through chronic tidal flooding and groundwater rise. As sea levels increase, saltwater pushes upward through porous limestone, flooding streets from below rather than from waves. This process damages foundations and vegetation long before dramatic storms arrive. Florida's challenges are not always violent or sudden. Sometimes the water simply refuses to leave. Number 3. Florida's freshwater supply is vulnerable to the ocean. Because Florida is surrounded by water and built on limestone, saltwater intrusion threatens freshwater supplies statewide. As groundwater is pumped out, pressure drops, allowing seawater to move inland underground. Once contaminated, aquifers are extremely difficult to restore. This means Florida's drinking water is directly connected to coastal stability. The ocean is not a distant threat, it's already pushing inward. Number 2. Florida's climate makes it a preview of global change. Scientists often study Florida as a climate change indicator because its low elevation, heat, and porous geology amplify environmental shifts. Sea level rise, stronger storms, ecosystem migration, and water stress appear in Florida earlier than in many other regions. What happens in Florida today may happen elsewhere tomorrow. The state functions as a testing ground where future global changes arrive first and unfold faster. Number 1. Florida is defined by water more than land. More than anything else, Florida is shaped by water in motion. Rainfall, groundwater, rivers, tides, waves, storms, and sea level rise constantly remake the state. Its swamps breathe, its shoreline moves, its aquifers rise and fall, and its wildlife adapts continuously. Florida is not a static place, it is a process. The land exists temporarily between forces that never stop pushing, pulling, dissolving, and rebuilding. To understand Florida is to understand motion, not permanence. Florida isn't strange because of headlines or stereotypes. It's strange because its foundation is unstable, its water refuses to behave, and its ecosystems never stop adapting. This is a state where ancient reptiles engineer wetlands, where coastlines migrate, where the ground can vanish overnight, and where sunshine fuels storms instead of calm. Florida doesn't resist nature. It negotiates with it daily. If this deep dive changed how you see the Sunshine State, like this video and subscribe to Wanderlust Labs, where we uncover the most unbelievable true facts hiding inside every corner of America. We've explored deserts, mountains, coastlines, and swamps, and the journey is far from over. Another state is already waiting, with its own hidden truths just beneath the surface. Until then, stay curious.